right now on the Georgia Vote. The first debate between President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump of 2024 is in the books.
We're verifying some of the claims made about unemployment, abortion, and the nation's armed forces.
And Democratic strategist Howard Franklin and Republican strategist Mark Roundtree touch on the big takeaways and impact on the race in our roundtable.
All right now on the Georgia Vote.
From the 11 Alive studios, this is the Georgia Vote with Faith Jesse and Zach Merchant.
Hey, good Sunday morning. Today we are devoting almost our entire half hour to Thursday night's presidential debate right here in Atlanta.
And what a debate it was. There were many headlines. The largest one may have been for President Joe Biden. Trailed for months by questions about his age, the president had an opportunity to show the nation how he handles high-pressure moments. Supporters had hoped for an energetic performance, but at times the president stumbled, apparently struggling to keep track of his thoughts, like in this response he gave to a question about the economy.
We'd be able to wipe out his debt. We'd be able to help make sure that all those things we need to do, child care, elder care, making sure that we continue to strengthen our health care system, making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the COVID, with dealing with everything we have to do with, look, if we finally beat Medicare.
Another big moment at the debate, whether former President Donald Trump would accept the outcome of this year's election, no matter who wins. His unproven claims of a fraudulent 2020 election and his reaction to his defeat in that race have stoked anxiety among some voters about how he would respond to another potential loss. After two attempts to skirt the question, CNN debate moderator Dana Bash asked Mr. Trump a third time whether he would accept this November's election results.
Will you accept the results of the election, regardless of who wins? Yes or no, please.
If it's a fair and legal and good election, absolutely. I would have much rather accepted these, but the fraud and everything else was ridiculous. And if you want, we'll have a news conference on it in a week, or we'll have another one of these in a week. But I will absolutely, there's nothing I'd rather do. It would be much easier for me to do that than I'm running again.
Both candidates have one more debate scheduled for September. It will be hosted by ABC News.
Now, following the debate, surrogates for Mr. Biden and Mr. Trump, they headed to the spin room to assure voters that that candidate is the right guy for the job. Now, after what some are calling a lackluster and sleepy performance by President Joe Biden, Georgia Senator Raphael Warnock zeroed in on the policy. He said that Donald Trump did not answer questions that impact the everyday person.
Elections are about the character of a nation. They are about jobs, they're about the economy, they're about war and peace, about a whole range of issues. But at the end of the day, it's really about the character of a country. And the American people got a chance tonight to be reminded about the character of Donald Trump, a man who stood there and lied for 90 minutes straight. But what I was also struck by was by what he did not say. Every time he was asked a question that had something to do with the lives of the ordinary working class people that I represent here in the state of Georgia, did you notice he never answered the question? When he was asked about child care, which is a real issue in this country. A lot of people can't get to work because they don't have child care. He didn't have an answer for that. He tried to take credit for capping the cost of insulin and prescription drugs. Well, I know that's a lie because that's my bill. I passed it, and Joe Biden signed it into law.
And over on the Republican side, Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz tells us former President Trump is the answer for those undecided voters.
There are 8% undecided voters, right? A lot of those voters that I talked to say, I'm not showing up anyway. I'm going to stay home. Did this performance tonight convince these voters here in Georgia to come out and vote for your candidate?
That's a great point. President Trump will secure the border, he will save our economy, he will restore our standing in the world, and he will end the wars. I think that's what voters want in both political parties. And no matter what Joe Biden's campaign says, you saw a man who cannot execute on anything. He cannot execute on presidential vision. He could barely execute pre-planned, pre-canned lines in the debate. So I would encourage folks here in Georgia, if you want to see these interest rates come down, if you want to be able to buy a home, if you want your place of work to be growing and not contracting, you need to get out and vote for President Trump.
Well, we certainly heard a lot from the candidates and their surrogates, but it's important to take a deeper look to see what's actually true and what's false.
Our Verified team always working to bring you the facts with the sources to back them up. So let's get right into it and verify. The first claim, President Biden said former President Trump had an unemployment rate of 15% during his administration. Our sources are the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics and the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis. We found that, yes, for 1 month during the COVID-19 pandemic, unemployment under then-President Trump did reach nearly 15% in April of 2020. The rate was at 14.8%, but by August, that rate had dropped below 10%, and it was below 6.4% in January of 2021 when Mr. Biden took office. So we can claim this is true.
Well, our next claim, former President Trump claimed that Democrat-run states allow after-birth abortions.
Because some states, Democrat-run, take it after birth. Again, the former governor of Virginia, put the baby down, then we decide what to do with it. So he's willing to, as we say, rip the baby out of the womb in the 9th month and kill the baby.
So our sources tonight are Virginia law and the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention data. So killing a child after birth is illegal in all 50 states. Abortions in late pregnancy are also rare. In 2021, about 93% of abortions in the U.S. occurred at or before 13 weeks gestation, while less than 1% occurred at 21 weeks or later. That's according to the latest data from the CDC. So we can verify that this claim is false.
Finally, President Joe Biden suggested that no American troops died under his watch.
When he was president, they were still killing people in Afghanistan. He didn't do anything about that. When he was president, we were still finding ourselves in a position where you had a notion that we were this safe country. The truth is, I'm the only president this century that doesn't have this decade, that doesn't have any troops dying anywhere in the world like he did.
Our sources are a Department of Defense Pentagon briefing and a department list of Army casualties. When Joe Biden took office, there were troops already deployed across the world, and he actually deployed another 3,000 service members nearly a year later to Poland to help build up forces on that country's western border with Ukraine and in Belarus. So it's clear he has sent troops during his administration, but President Biden is wrong in saying no American troops died. Though the U.S. is not technically involved directly in any wars, there have been troop casualties. The Department of Defense releases the names of service member casualties, including earlier this year, 3 from Georgia who were killed in Jordan. So we can verify this claim is false. And up next, our analysis of the debate continues as Howard Franklin and Mark Roundtree join us next for an expanded roundtable discussion.
And later, it is this week's Voice of the Voter. We talk with a senior pastor at a local AME church about what keeps him hopeful and concerned about today's political climate.
I don't walk as easy as I used to. I don't speak as smoothly as I used to. I don't debate as well as I used to. But I know what I do know. I know how to tell the truth.
Joe Biden's problem is not his age. It's not his anything, really. It's got no problem other than it's his competence. He's grossly incompetent.
Time now for our political roundtable. Today we have Democratic strategist Howard Franklin. He has worked on campaigns throughout the Southeast including his time leading Andre Dickens' successful 2021 campaign for Atlanta mayor. He now leads the consulting firm Ohio River South, and Republican strategist and pollster Mark Roundtree. He's run numerous campaigns in Georgia and is the founder and president of Landmark Communications based right here in Atlanta. Welcome to panel, gentlemen. A whole lot to get through today. What a debate we saw. I want to start off by asking, what were your biggest takeaways from the debate? Mark, we'll start with you.
Well, I don't think it's going to take political consultants to say that this was not a good night for President Biden. He was unquestionably incoherent in his responses. I think he did immeasurable damage to his campaign for a re-election.
Yeah, I have a slightly different take. I mean, I agree that Democrats and President Biden are going to have to spend considerable time and effort walking back last night's performance instead of putting forward a vision and an agenda for America. I think there was a lot of promise that this was going to be some momentous inflection point for the campaign. I don't think that a lot of minds were changed necessarily. I think that the challenge that the Democrats will continue to have is, can you continue to reassemble this coalition and get out some of the voters who still feel disaffected?
And I just want to push back. You don't think minds were changed after last night's performance by President Joe Biden?
I mean, I talked to a lot of folks, and I think people were certainly concerned about some of the same things that have been brought up for months upon months. About whether or not he is up to the task of actually campaigning to be president, right? And I think that the point I would underscore is that a debate is a performance, and he was not up to the challenge of making a performance. But I don't think he'll have to debate his way through the economy or debate his way through inflation. I think he's done, an ample job the last 3.5 years. So I don't think I worry about it in much the same way.
I think minds are clearly changed last night, by the way. I think among soft Republicans that have needed some reassurance that President Trump could kind of learn from past mistakes and control himself a little more in these debates, I think they were given a lot of reassurance. And I think that there has been a big pushback by the White House against these videos and memes that we've all seen on the internet of these weird moments where Biden just walks off and looks up to the back of the stage and is talking with people that aren't there. You've seen these things, but the White House has pushed back saying that we're taking them out of context. And last night we saw that these were not out of context.
Well, and let's talk about that. Experts, including yourselves, will say, and I know you have said, debates help set the tenor of what happens next in a campaign moving forward. Let's cue up, and if we can, listen in to an interview 11 Alive recently conducted with former Georgia Congresswoman Carolyn Bourdeaux with her reaction to last night's debate.
I think the real challenge is for those of us who are out there trying to sell him as a candidate, is it's very hard to say that he's going to be an effective leader after that kind of performance. And I, for one, would like to see the convention be a brokered convention and find somebody else to step into his role.
Big statement there.
Big statement. Yeah. Howard, let's start with you, your reaction to those comments.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there have been Democrats calling for a younger, more vibrant leader for the party for quite a while. And, I think the challenge, the arguments that's been made is that we're so far down the chute that it would be destabilizing to try to change the leader at the top of the ticket today, and that there isn't also a consensus candidate amongst Democrats that we could put atop the ticket and know that folks would fall in line. So it is a rock and a hard place. Let me just agree with former Congresswoman Bourdeaux. But I don't think that we're at a place where there is consensus, to use the same word, that we know exactly what we're going to do here. We got the person. Is it Vice President, Kamala Harris? Is it Governor Newsom, who's been a very prominent surrogate? I don't think there's consensus around that. And I think, absent that consensus, I think we kind of march slowly toward, the election.
We have 30 seconds here, Mark. Your take.
If the Democrats go to a brokered convention and do not pick Kamala Harris as their nominee, you will have political warfare going on at the DNC. This could be a repeat of the 1968 Democratic National Convention with real fighting going on. There is an expectation that she will be the nominee after Biden, and I think if that doesn't happen, I think there could be a real problem, but she would be a terrible general election nominee.
We have so much more to talk about, and the good news is we will be able to continue talking about it. Stay with us. We will have more with both of our experts coming up just after the break. Welcome back in as we continue now with our panel of political insiders, Mark Roundtree, Howard Franklin. And look, on the Georgia vote, we want to make sure that Georgia issues are front and center. So let's right now go to a key question at Thursday night's debate about what is going to be a key voting bloc right here in Georgia.
What do you say to black voters who are disappointed with the progress so far?
I say I don't blame them for being disappointed. Inflation is still hurting them badly. For example, I provided for the idea that any black family first-time home buyer should get a $10,000 tax credit to be able to buy their first home so they can get started. I made sure that we're in a situation where all those black families and those black individuals who provided had to take out student loans that were ballooning.
And he caused the inflation. He's blaming inflation, and he's right, it's been very bad. He caused the inflation, and it's killing black families and Hispanic families and just about everybody.
And one bite that we did not play there that actually went a little viral, some people took offense to it. Former President Trump said that the immigrants are coming in and taking black jobs. People saying, what is a black job? What is a Hispanic job? But gentlemen, I want to ask you this. The black population has historically been Democratic. You are usually raised to be a Democrat depending on your household. I spoke with Rep. Byron Donalds from Florida. I asked him this question, how do you combat that? And his answer really was, what have Democrats really done for you? There was a barbershop situation right before the debate where there were 8 black men who were conservatives, and that was the big message. What have Democrats really done for you? What can the Republican Party do better? So, Howard, I want you to weigh in on this. What do you say to that?
Yeah, well, I know Byron very well, and we have this conversation amongst ourselves all the time, and he does a great job on camera when he's asked. I did see the clip of the barbershop. I think that the issue that the president and his campaign have really run into is that they haven't done a great job of channeling the message about what they have accomplished for Americans, specifically around black America. But when you look at the record of service, the number of blacks appointed to the judiciary, the number of jobs created that are impacting in a positive way black and brown households, the amount of policy, erasing student loan debt, et cetera. Like there is no question that this president has been consequential on issues that matter to black America. Now, has he communicated specifically to black Americans about these things? Probably not as well.
But he has, because he's spoken at Morehouse. He's sent his surrogates down here. But at the end of the day, Mark, people aren't feeling this in their pocketbooks. My Uber driver over to the debate, a black woman, and I asked her, she was like, I'm just not feeling it under Biden.
Well, and how does it affect Georgia is a big question. Georgia only went for Biden by 12,000 votes on the official vote tabulation, and under that, a change of 20,000 votes would probably almost certainly mean that Trump wins this. So Trump is making an interesting choice by going straight after the African-American vote and Hispanic vote. He's doing something that you really never saw out of Bob Dole, you never saw it out of Bush, you really didn't see it out of Reagan, and you didn't see it out of McCain. But you are seeing it under Trump. He is going straight after the African-American vote, and he's basing it on immigration issues, which doesn't chase off other voting patterns. The only people that it might chase off to some degree are not legal and can't vote. So it has been a pretty good strategy by Trump so far, actually.
Yeah, I mentioned, we had 160 million people vote the last time these two men met in 2020. I think it's quite possible that we see fewer voters. I think, we've heard a lot about these double haters who are not enthused about either one of the candidates. I think Mark is right that 12,000 vote delta could be a real issue. But if Georgians show up in lower numbers, it could also change the dynamics of what you need to even win the 16 electoral college.
And we've got, I hate to interrupt, we've only got about 15 seconds left, but I want to get one last question into each of you in one sentence. The key to success for the rest of the campaign for President Biden and for President Trump is what? We'll start with you, Howard.
That's a great question. I don't know that I have that answer. I mean, I think they're going to try to reset this entire campaign. I think managing expectations, re-energizing this coalition, I think there's a lot that has to be done.
Mark,
what's not working is the indictment stuff they're attacking Trump on. What can work is a total rechange. What Trump needs to do is continue to stay on the offense.
We wish we had more time, but we've got to turn now. We are coming right back with our weekly Voice of the Voter segment. We ask this local pastor what issues will shape his vote in November. We say it every week because we mean it. You can't have the Georgia vote without Georgia voters. In a season where so much attention is paid to politicians, we always want to make sure real voters and their real concerns are at the center of the conversation. So this week we sit down with Anton Elwood, the senior pastor at St. Philip AME Church in DeKalb County.
You are in the 2,500 seat sanctuary of the St. Philip AME Church.
Obviously, it's empty right now, but on a Sunday morning, what does this place look like?
It is amazing intergenerational gathering of individuals that are filled with each person from babies all the way to a member that's 101 years old.
You have a long week just like everybody else does, but your Sundays, you're right up there.
Right up there, working hard.
When you're looking out at the congregation, what's going through your mind?
Well, we know that as if there were 5 or 5,000, there are a myriad of situations, myriad of layers of things that people are dealing with and going through in their personal lives, in their professional lives, in their family lives, and in the country. So the task of the pastor and the preacher is to try to minister to all levels and all layers of each individual in each generation, which can be a task.
What do you love about it?
The people. I love to see people leave out with a smile, with joy, knowing that they have come and almost stopped at a refill place to make it through the rest of their week.
It's about being together.
Definitely. Fellowship goes a long way.
We've got a big election coming up in November. When you look ahead, what worries you the most?
Voter disenfranchisement, I would say voter suppression, and also voter fatigue. These last few election cycles have been rough. They've been rough on the individuals, been rough to watch the sparring on the news, the back and forths, the ups and downs, all of the issues that the community and the country is facing now. So I'm a bit concerned about the voter themselves.
When you look ahead to November, what's the number one biggest issue that's going to govern how you vote?
I don't think you can avoid the economy. I don't think you can avoid inflation. I think these are the big hot items at this time when the prices on everything is astronomical, that a trip to the grocery store could cost you hundreds of dollars, that there's still seniors in the community that are choosing between prescription medication and food to eat in their refrigerators. And I know that you asked for one, but I also don't think we can avoid crime. I think gun laws, I think gun violence in the community is a crisis. And in order for us to adequately deal with what's going on and happening in our communities, I think it's important that we pay close attention to what each candidate has to say about gun violence.
We always end on this. What are you most optimistic about?
That the people will understand that they have the power. I'm really optimistic in believing that we will understand our power, our voice, the magnitude of what we have in our possession. And we are our best natural resource.
And Pastor Elwood says he's paying particularly close attention to whether young people get out and vote.
All right, Zach, thank you so much for that conversation. And thank you all so much for watching today. We hope to see you back here next Sunday for another edition of the Georgia Vote.